Jordan Belfort grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Queens, where most dreams stopped at simply making ends meet. But he carried a different kind of ambition, one that refused to stay inside four walls or follow the usual advice about living a stable life. From a young age, Jordan saw the world as an open marketplace, a place where any opportunity could turn into money if you knew how to spin it. At 16, while his friends were still worried about homework, Jordan pushed a shaved ice cart through the neighborhood. The way he steered conversations with customers felt so natural it almost seemed effortless, yet it worked shockingly well. With just a few clever lines, he turned something as ordinary as cold ice into a lively transaction and earned amounts many adults had never touched. What stood out wasn't the product. It was his sharpness in observing people, his ability to read what they wanted before they even realized it themselves. Jordan wasn't selling shaved ice. He was selling the feeling of being prioritized, being special, and being promised something a little more exciting than what they currently had. From those scorching afternoons in Queens, the first seed of a future wolf was planted. Not through money, but through the power to make others believe what he said. And that, for Jordan, became the force that followed him through life. After leaving school, Jordan stepped into the business world in a way few would have predicted. He launched a door-to-door meat and seafood business, driving the truck himself, handling the sales himself, managing every single step on his own. The work was messy, chaotic, and so unstructured that most people believed he would quit within weeks. But Jordan turned it into a sales storm, hitting $100,000 a month, all without cold storage, without a team, and with almost no experience. The success didn't last long. Late deliveries, spoiled products, unpaid invoices, everything piled up and dragged the business straight to the bottom. The company collapsed. The truck was left on the side of the road. Yet it was in that moment of failure that Jordan understood the most valuable thing he had gained. Not the meat, not the seafood, not the razor-thin profits from each order. It was the ability to persuade anyone in any situation, the ability to turn a customer who was rejecting him into someone pulling out their wallet on the spot. The ability to make people believe they were making the right choice, even before they fully understood what they were buying. That failed venture wasn't just a business lesson. It was the place where Jordan realized the truth that would shape the rest of his life. He didn't need a perfect product. He only needed someone to sell to, and he knew he could sell anything. Jordan stepped onto Wall Street with wide eyes, staring at a world built on numbers, expensive suits, and the unshakable confidence of stockbrokers. This was where he learned how the market moved. I learned the rhythm of non-stop calls, and absorbed the kind of energy that made people feel as if they were standing at the very center of the financial universe. Everything moved fast, fiercely, and seductively. Jordan soaked it all in like a sponge, hungry for both knowledge and opportunity. Then Black Monday hit, a day when all of Wall Street drowned in panic. Phones stopped ringing. Market screens glowed red, as if warning that a sudden storm had swept across the entire financial world. Companies began cutting staff. Jordan lost his job in a single afternoon, the perfect setup to crush a young man just entering the profession. But where others saw chaos, Jordan saw a new direction. He discovered a neglected corner of the market. Tiny, forgotten stocks. Unknown companies trading for just a few dollars. A territory untouched by major brokers, yet carrying something more appealing than prestige. Commissions that were many times higher than anything on traditional Wall Street. No degrees required. No connections needed. Just a steady voice and enough confidence to make someone believe in a dream that had never existed before. From the market's collapse, Jordan saw a door, and he was ready to walk through it with every ounce of sharpness life had sharpened in him. Penny stocks were never an attractive product. They were tiny, obscure shares with almost no liquidity. Yet, to Jordan, they gleamed like raw gold, waiting to be polished. The reason was simple: the commission rate no Wall Street firm would ever dare offer. 50% on every trade. A number big enough to turn a single phone call into a week's salary, powerful enough to send any salesperson into a state of pure adrenaline. Jordan immediately recognized the true value of this overlooked territory. No brand needed. No deep analysis required. All he had to sell was belief, the promise that a tiny company could someday become a rising star. The feeling that the buyer was stepping into an opportunity the professionals hadn't yet discovered. With just a few guiding lines, he made clients feel smarter than the crowd. Made them feel they were standing in front of a rare chance. They didn't understand the company. They only understood the excitement Jordan planted in his voice. And when that excitement was strong enough, every doubt evaporated. One call, $4,000 closed. No managerial pressure. No oversight. No ethical guardrails. Jordan had found exactly what he'd always been searching for, a model where the seller controlled the game entirely. And the buyer always believed they were about to get rich. This wasn't just business. This was the art of selling dreams. And Jordan was ready to take it to a scale no one had ever seen before. Jordan didn't just want to become a great broker. He wanted a kingdom. And Stratton Oakmont was born from that ambition. The name sounded like an old, prestigious firm with wood-paneled boardrooms and oil portraits on the walls. But in reality, it was just an office in an ordinary commercial strip, flickering lights, mismatched furniture, and nothing remotely royal about it. Danny Porish appeared at the perfect moment, bringing with him the same recklessness and survival instinct Jordan possessed. They didn't need elite talent. They needed people hungry for money, willing to do anything to close a deal. Bartenders, college dropouts, wandering salesmen, all pulled into an environment where explosive energy mattered more than degrees. And a persuasive voice outweighed any spreadsheet. Jordan built a training system where a rookie could become a sales warrior after just one call. He taught them to keep a client on a straight line from the greeting to the final yes. He taught them to push the buyer's confidence higher and higher, then lock it in with an aggressive purchase order. No thinking, no backing down. The office gradually took on the shape of a massive machine. Phones ringing non-stop, heads nodding in excitement. Commissions so large, they made people believe they were touching the peak of the financial world. Everything was flashy. Everything was impulsive. And everything rested on a foundation frighteningly fragile. Stratton Oakmont looked like an empire. But inside, it was nothing more than bricks glued together with ambition and illusion. Stratton Oakmont wasn't just a brokerage office. It was a training ground for a persuasion method sharpened to a chilling degree. Jordan called it straight-line persuasion, a technique that forced every conversation to move straight from the opening line to the close, leaving the client no room to escape in between. New recruits often walked in having never sold a single thing in their lives. But after just a few training sessions, they transformed completely. Their voices grew firmer. Their pace quickened. Their questions became so sharp, the listener barely had time to react. They were taught that hesitation was the enemy, and that a client's silence was an opportunity to push one more layer of persuasion. Inside the office, the sound of ringing phones created a non-stop rhythm. Everyone attacked their calls like sprinters. High pressure, high expectations, and high speed blurred the line between polished skill and deliberate psychological hypnosis. Jordan nurtured that culture because he knew its power. When a large enough team followed the same straight line, the combined impact resembled a tidal wave. Not a collection of individual talents, but an entire system pushing a single belief in one direction. Straight-line persuasion turned Stratton Oakmont into a selling machine almost too powerful to believe. A machine that didn't care about the real value of a product, only about making the listener feel they had to buy right now. And once that belief was strong enough, every ethical boundary was pushed aside. Stratton Oakmont didn't just sell stocks. They sold excitement, the feeling that clients were standing on the edge of a life-changing opportunity. And that emotion became the foundation of the pump and dump model. A scheme so cleverly designed that from the outside it looked like real investing. But inside it was a machine built to crush trust. The process began with accumulating large amounts of cheap shares from a tiny company businesses with almost no product, no revenue, and sometimes not even an office. But once they entered Stratton's hands, everything was given a fresh coat of paint. A barrage of phone calls inflated the company's perceived value, pushing clients into believing they were touching a hidden gem the market had overlooked. Every broker became a cog in the machine that drove these stock prices skyward. They painted vivid pictures of the company's bright future, imagining leaps and milestones backed by no real data. When enough people believed the story, the price soared, and that was the moment Jordan and his team quietly dumped all their shares. The clients never realized their dream existed only to serve that single moment. When the frenzy cooled, the price collapsed. Anyone who bought at the top watched their account evaporate in days. To Stratton, it was an efficient workday. But to the victims, it was their savings wiped out with no trace. The pump and dump didn't operate perfectly because it was intelligent. It operated perfectly because it exploited human greed, fear, and ignorance. And Stratton Oakmont fed on those weaknesses every single day. As money poured in like a flood, Stratton Oakmont turned into a chaotic stage where every limit was erased. On the outside, it looked like a thriving firm, but inside it lived a lifestyle far beyond any boundary. Parties that lasted until sunrise. Luxury bottles opened one after another. White lines spread across office desks. And decisions made in a haze where no one could tell the difference between excitement and hallucination. Jordan became the center of that whirlwind. He owned a helicopter, supercars, mansions, and a yacht named after his wife. These weren't just possessions, they were declarations that he stood at the top, untouchable. But that feeling of invincibility was exactly what pushed everything out of control. Employees drowned in drugs just to keep up with the impossible pace. Fights erupted over commissions, egos, and bottomless greed. Violence, conflict, and tension became normal inside the office. Even Jordan couldn't escape the spiral. His addiction grew so severe, he could no longer control his actions. His marriage cracked. Accidents caused by heavy drug use became the marks of a man burning himself alive. The sinking of the Naomi during a storm was the clearest exposure of his delusion. In the raging sea, with his family's lives at risk, Jordan still believed he couldn't fall. The yacht went under. He was rescued. But the image of a mighty empire had already begun to fracture. Excess and addiction built a world that seemed endless. Yet, it was the very road leading Stratton straight to the abyss. While Stratton Oakmont continued creating artificial waves in the market, irregular signals began drawing the attention of regulators. Opaque IPO filings, complaints from investors, and streams of money flowing into suspicious accounts slowly formed a picture where anyone glancing at it could sense something was wrong. And when the FBI entered the scene, they didn't observe from a distance. They followed every trace like a months-long hunt, meticulous, quiet, and relentless. Gregory Coleman, the financial crimes agent, was the one who saw the anomaly clearly. He collected each scattered piece, call scripts, shady invoices, recurring cash withdrawals, and transfers to overseas accounts under the names of Jordan's relatives. Each detail was a thin thread, but when woven together, they pointed straight to the heart of the entire fraudulent system. Mounting pressure began cracking Stratton from the inside. Some brokers were arrested in unrelated cases. Others grew resentful over unpaid bonuses. They started cooperating with the FBI, bringing documents, call recordings, and testimonies about closed-door meetings. As the net tightened, loyalty evaporated. Everyone wanted to save themselves first. The raid came on a morning like any other. Phones were ripped from hands, filing cabinets thrown open, computers cloned on the spot. People who once cheered loudly in that office now stood in silence as everything they had built was dismantled within hours. The Stratton Empire didn't fall because it ran out of money. It fell because it could no longer hide not even for one more day. Once the truth was dragged into the light, the glamour lost all power. Only the wreckage of a machine built on greed and overconfidence remained. When the evidence became overwhelming enough to close the door on any chance of escape, Jordan Belfort faced a sentence that could have buried the rest of his life. But instead of fighting to the end,
I've made my decision.
he chose the path he knew best. He sold the only thing he had left. Not stocks information. He cooperated with the FBI, recorded his colleagues, and handed over the very people who once treated him like their leader. More than 30 individuals were prosecuted. Jordan, meanwhile, received just 22 months in a facility that barely resembled a prison. Those days behind bars became an unexpected turning point. Jordan met Tommy Chong, a comedian also serving time. Amid conversations about drugs, money, and reckless decisions, Tommy noticed something rare in Jordan, a story dramatic enough to become a book. His advice? Write it down. Open the next chapter of Jordan's life. The Wolf of Wall Street emerged with a tone dripping in arrogance and boldness. It didn't apologize. It didn't express regret. It retold years of fraud with a breezy confidence, as if it had all been nothing more than an adventurous misadventure. The public devoured it with a mix of fascination and amusement. Hollywood instantly recognized its cinematic value and turned it into a global sensation. Jordan stepped out of his past, not as a criminal who had paid his dues, but as a cultural icon. He gave sales seminars, delivered motivational speeches, and attached his name to the image of a man willing to cross any boundary to get what he wanted. While many victims still hadn't recovered what they lost, Jordan continued earning money from the very story that destroyed their lives. That is the ultimate irony. A con man not only escaped with a light sentence, he became famous for the very things that should have erased him from the spotlight forever.